So, what did you miss at Jubilee today? Well, you missed a peculiar Sunday. It was Muffin Church, which means that at 10 o'clock this morning we started serving muffins and coffee, and the service started at 10:30, but people were seated around card tables and long tables and just in groups, and in the center of the chancel was a band, sax and a couple of guitars and piano and backup singers and lead singers and bass and melodica. Had a melodica too. We had a heck of a band, and we played some Creedence Clearwater Revival, and we played some Chuck Berry, and we played some Pink, and we played some Drifters. We played a whole bunch of different music from decades past to fairly recently. And we did all of that to invite people into conversation. We talked with each other about gifts. We heard Paul speak of spiritual gifts in his letter to the church in Corinth. And so we spent 10, 15 minutes just talking to each other around the table about our gifts. I encouraged people to brag a little. And I got to join in a couple of conversations and hear some real sharing, some real honest inventory as people talked about the things that they do well, the things upon which they base their pride. And I heard couples talking to each other and strangers talking to each other and sharing things that I'm not used to people just sharing when they come to church. When we come to church, we listen and we talk over coffee and we do a little bit of exchange, but today we talked. And how often do you get to talk about gifts, spiritual or otherwise? We heard John's gospel and the story of Jesus in Cana when he turned water into wine at the wedding. He didn't want to, but his mother insisted it was time. So we talked a little bit about times that we have had gifts that we didn't want to share right away because we didn't feel like it was our time. But we've needed a little nudge, and what that was like. And so we heard from each other. Again, we didn't tell everybody. We just shared in our little gatherings. We shared stories of times that we've been reluctant or unsure, or we didn't see the connection until somebody pointed out that we had a gift that could be used. And so that sharing happened, and that was wonderful. Came to the time of our offering, and probably uniquely across the country, our band sang "If I Had $1 Million." But we acknowledge that some of us may or may not have $1 million, but that we all have millions of gifts to offer, opportunities to connect, opportunities to reach out of our comfort zone or reach into somebody else's isolation and loneliness and connect, to bring our gifts. So we did that, and we prayed as you do when you gather in a setting like this. And then we sang some more. We sang "How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You." And that took us out and into the world. So what you missed today was, I thought, some pretty good music. And what you missed today was an opportunity to talk with others about the kind of things that we don't often talk about. We didn't talk about the Leafs, and we didn't talk about the weather, and we didn't talk about politics. We talked about our gifts, spiritual and otherwise. We talked about times that we've needed a little motivation or a connection. And we committed ourselves to sharing those gifts with the community, with the world. And we did it all while we laughed and sang. And it was a good day. That I'm sorry you missed it. But I hope that we'll get to see you soon. I hope that you'll be back to Jubilee soon, because we miss you. And it is better when you're here. But I encourage you to consider your gifts. Go ahead, brag a little to yourself. Think about the things that you do and find ways to share them. Because the truth is, we need what you have. Until I get to see you again, God bless.